I'm your host Afifa Wan from Humanities and Social Sciences Department with another episode of our weekly program Danish Kadah. Today in studio we have two guests with us who have been teaching English language for many years, Ma'am Naila and Ma'am Shiraza. So we will talk to them about the importance and scope of English language in university and generally about English language teaching. Let's welcome them. Welcome to the show, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Afifa.
Ma'am, first of all, I would like to ask Ma'am Shiraza that did you opt for this profession consciously or you accidentally just entered into English language teaching?
Afifa, as I've told somebody else before, that this profession chose me. I never wanted to be a teacher, but now that I have been teaching for more than 20 years, I think I would opt it again for another lifetime.
So you had such a great experience.
Yes.
Okay. Ma'am Naila, what about you?
Well, I also landed into this profession accidentally. And when I finished my master's and I got married, and after that there was a school nearby. I started from there, and I just wanted some teaching experience just to see how it goes on. And I really enjoyed being with kids, and my career started from there. And then I pursued to university teaching, and then it went on and on.
So do you find any difference while teaching the kids and then
there's a huge difference, of course. I feel more comfortable with university students because I feel they are more mature, and they are more focused towards their studies and more serious, whereas with the kids you need to be, you know, a little more relaxed, and you need to give them more time to, you need to play around with them and then get them do their work. But in university people are serious and it's more comfortable. I'm more comfortable.
They are motivated, actually.
Yes,
and it's transactional. They give us something and we give, while we are teaching them, they're teaching us as
exactly. And they're more career focused, and because they know that in a couple of years they will be in the market and doing various kinds of jobs. So I think they give more attention to their teachers at university level.
Sure. So Ma'am Shiraza, back to you. As we know that English has become a global language, and definitely it's very important for us to learn that. I mean, as a language even. So what do you think that are the students really are trying to focus on that language in that perspective or not?
I think they are, but their motivation levels vary. When they're in school, the motivation level is not as high as it is in the university, but still there's a lot that is required. It's very tragic, I would say, that our children have to think in one language, they grow up around one language, and then suddenly they have to, in their practical life, they need the passport of English. They think in Urdu, their mother tongues, and a lot of ideas are lost in translation. But this is a reality that cannot be changed. So we have to live with it. For that we keep motivating them, okay, this language is here to stay.
Sure.
It's not going away. So the sooner they start learning this language and becoming fluent in it, it's a passport to their brighter future. So they have to learn.
Sure.
We try to motivate them.
Sure. So Ma'am Naila, don't you think so that translating from one language to another is a really very difficult, rather
I think it is
impossible?
Very difficult. It looks,
so,
I mean,
so how could we discourage our students opting for this?
Well, we can't discourage them because they think in their mother tongues or in their native languages, and then they translate that, and you can't stop that process. They've been brought up like this right from their childhood, and I think they will go on translating this language, but what they need is they need more practice, they need more fluency. So this is what we need to encourage them. We can't tell them to stop thinking in Urdu or in any other language, any other native language.
So there isn't any way that where we could really have this stop, because I still remember our professor used to tell us in university that you have to think in English, you have to think in particular language, whichever language you are going to learn. So accordingly you have to think in that.
You can encourage students to do that, but I think it's impossible to do.
At a conscious level they might be able to, but at an unconscious level nobody is able to do that.
So you can encourage them to do that, but it's impossible. So what you can do is that just motivate them to speak more, because we don't have environment where students can speak English a lot in their homes or even in their social gatherings. They all use their native language.
Most of the time they would be embarrassed in speaking in front of their friends.
Exactly.
Afifa, the first thing that I tell them in an oral communication class is that you're all in the same boat.
Exactly.
And they'll laugh at you, they'll make fun of you, but remember that they are in the same boat and they're no better than you are.
Sure.
So this is a it's net practice here. You can make fun of each other, just disregard the laughter and the smile and the smirk and speaking this language. Because when it's much better to be made fun of in class than it is to be made fun of in the practical world.
Sure, and even the concept of mistake making, that has totally been changed. I mean, it's considered as really first step towards the learning.
In fact, I encourage my students. I tell them that even if you make mistakes, I mean, you don't bother about them. What you need to learn first is the confidence of speaking out. So once you gain the confidence, then definitely you'll improve on your fluency, and then we'll come to your corrections. First, speak out, get the confidence, because many students, they hesitate to speak before their friends because they fear they may be making some errors. So we need to remove that fear first, and then of course language development or improving their.
So in this perspective, we also started students grooming program, Ma'am Shiraza. So do you think that's the benefit? Or
that is very beneficial. One very positive step that was included in that was they were supposed to video record all their presentations. So in the privacy of their own homes, they got to see how they looked and how they sounded when they presented in class. And they, as human beings, we're very critical about ourselves. So they were able to pick out very small details that they thought were not needed to be improved. So that was a very good step.
That was a very good initiative taken by Bahria University. I think student grooming programs have really facilitated the students into minutely observing their own spoken skills, the way they demonstrate themselves in class, especially their presentation skills. So once the recording is with them, they can go home and in the comfort of their own homes, they can go through their own presentation skills. And sometimes we also ask them to play the recordings of some of the students who have really done well in their presentation skills, and then we discuss those skills with the other students, and they get to understand their own mistakes.
So you guys also discuss the same thing in your classroom as well, referring to those who did very well.
Yes. So that's some of the bright students,
So ma'am, do you think that we should have even the courses like OC for other semesters as well? Because again, we have been focusing on fluency and accuracy.
Yes, whenever I teach my MBA students, they always ask me, ma'am, can you request the HOD to have for us an oral communication course, because there are students who come from different backgrounds and they don't have much training of presentations or to have group discussions in class. So even at MBA level, students fear speaking before their friends. So they do need a course like oral communication where they can have maybe a more mature discussions, more mature presentations, more business related presentations at that level. So yes, for business MBA students, we don't have that course for them, but I think we should introduce for them as well.
At one point we also made them host shows, you remember? So they were made to host shows and they had guests and they were given questions.
I see, exactly. If we talk about the practical life and the field work, so I think that's a great idea. So how could we make it an integral part of this teaching?
More oral communication courses, I think. That would help.
Because that's the first interaction you have with your employer. When they go for job interviews, that's the first interaction, and when you're not impressive in your speech, I think that would create a bad
Can you ma'am tell us more about the OC courses, that how do you teach, because that is a bit different from the normal teaching?
OC courses are all based on oral activities that are carried out throughout the semester. We give maybe for 1 or 2 weeks we would deliver lectures, but later on the class is handed over to the students. The students are the ones who perform various activities. Those activities are designed according to our course outline.
So you have student-centered classes later on after 2 years.
Exactly. And they are the ones who perform all the activities. They are different kinds of activities in which each and every student has to participate. And I think it develops their confidence, their spoken skills get a lot better. By the end of the semester, within 4 months, we can see a visible difference in many students. So I think more of oral communication classes need to be introduced, because it gives
the video record that we have them keep is a record of how much they've come. They've from the first recording to their last final presentation. They can also see the marked difference.
And Afifa, every activity is recorded. Each time a student comes before the class, he is evaluated and his recording is done, and he sees every activity, their own progress as well. Yes.
And at the end of the semester, they do burn those CDs for us, and they're kept in record, so that we also have a record that how far they've come and how much improvement
they have been through. That's really a great idea. So ma'am, how could we really encourage our students to focus especially on language learning, as we have been talking about it, but in this perspective that the students mostly, as we said earlier as well, are coming from the different background. So they have a kind of fear, or like, we love our language, our own language, Urdu. Why don't we speak Urdu here, or why don't we focus on that? How can we motivate them to focus on this language for their future, because it's a global language? And how can we remove this fear from their mind that their culture won't be changed in case they will learn this language?
Afifa, at this level, I don't think students do not understand that how important it is to learn English language, because that's a language they'll be using in their professional fields, in their professional life as well, and they can't escape from English language. Wherever they go, whichever business line they opt for, English has to be spoken over there. It is spoken globally, or even in our own country. In every organization there is English being used. So at this level, I think students do know that English is very, very essential for them to survive in their professional lives, and even in their academic lives. They do need to, of course, be good at both spoken and written English. So there isn't any, I don't think they have any misconception that they should not be focusing on English and it's not their mother tongue.
Ma'am Shiraza, did you ever happen to confront any such situation in your classroom where the students would be a bit hesitant?
Yes, Afifa, I believe that with language comes culture. So with English language, we there's a lot of culture that has come in. There are words that belong to that culture, and we use them frequently. But now they're old enough to recognize those words and not use them. And it's good to know about another culture. If the Urdu is very rich, and they're lucky that such a rich language, they've grown up hearing that language. And I tell them that knowing a language is not just speaking, is not knowing it. Have you ever read Urdu literature? I think it's one of the richest literature. But English also is very rich. So they need to know that language, and there are many languages that are coming up, Mandarin and Arabic and all. Like English is here to stay. It will not be replaced.
Bilkul. Or at the same time, we do have the different kinds of methodologies. जैसे latest methodologies आ रही हैं for the language teaching especially. So उसके बारे में आप क्या कहेंगे? आपको क्या लगता है कि वो वाकई में कुछ improvement ला रही हैं teaching में? Like we had the grammar translation method earlier, then we jumped on the direct method, and then we are focusing even on the silent method at times. So what do you think?
Yes, we are getting help from technology. We are using technology, and we're using the labs for making them listen to various activities and various video recordings. Yes, when listening, through listening activities in oral communication classes, students do get to listen to lots of
different accents
as well. And
different situations
and it improves their spoken skills as well. I mean, they listen more to various accents and correct pronunciations of different words. Yes, it helps them improve their language as well.
If I compare my school and college and university days with today's, the students, what they are exposed to and what facilities they have. So I would say they are very lucky to have so much at their disposal. They have access to the internet all day long, it's in their hands, and in our classes that are very well equipped, we get to make them hear things that we think are good for them, like TED Talks. There are topics that I want my students to know about. So I share TED, and it's only possible through the audio-visual facilities that we are provided in the classrooms.
Exactly, at BBA level, even the students are preparing for their own TED Talks as well. I'm sure, Ma'am Naila, you could tell us more about it.
Yes, there is an activity that we do similar to TED Talks, where students are assigned certain topics, and then we take them to the auditorium, and we create a similar kind of environment or situation over there. And then students do discuss the topics before the audience. So I think it gives a lot of exposure to them, and it becomes very informative because they're different topics they share with their friends. So
they
that
do get inspired
yes,
by the
they
topic,
do get inspired. That's really helpful for them as well.
And one of the very important topics in oral communication is intercultural communication. We cannot live isolated as an isolated culture. So they have to know about cultures, so might as well through language.
Sure. So, Ma'am Naila,
Yes.
I'll really like to ask about your research paper, like that was published recently,
Yes.
and also like how could we encourage our students in the field of research?
Well, how I encourage my students is I assign them different projects, and I assign them research activities, and they would go to different organizations, do some research on that, primary research over there, and then even through the internet, and then they would come and give a presentation and prepare a project. And one class was given an assignment of preparing a case study on a specific organization. So they do go into the field, gather data, and then come and present. They do need to give us pictorial evidence of their visits over there as well. Sometimes they make video recordings as well, so that we.
That's the way you encourage.
So,
ma'am, we will come back to the research question again after a short break.
All right.
Viewers, let's go on a short break. Please do stay with us. वेलकम बैक व्यूअर्स. ब्रेक पे जाने से पहले मैम नाइला, मैं आपसे आपकी रिसर्च के बारे में पूछ रही थी दैट यू रिसेंटली हैव पब्लिश योर पेपर, research paper. So please kindly tell us something about it. What did you actually publish in that, and what kind of research did you do?
All right, I published a paper. My paper got published on the topic microfinance and women empowerment. Basically, microfinance deals with I was covering the aspect of how economically, when you empower women, how their status changes in society and how it helps them improve their livelihood. And I was working with an organization, Akhuvat, and I carried out research. My research respondents were from Akhuvat, and I tried to explore how these women, how Akhuvat helped the poor women in that in a particular locality in Rawalpindi.
To survive and earn, I'm
how
sure.
they encourage them, how they help them out to survive, open up small businesses. So
so there's also an idea of entrepreneurship.
Yes, entrepreneurs, small on a very small scale, because they were given loans for, let's say, rupees 10,000, 5,000. So from a very small scale, these women, how they enhance their businesses, and through mutual cooperation, through support of other women, they improve their businesses and they improve their income, and how their families income increases, and even their own social status improves. When a woman begins to earn money, so how her status in her society, in her household, how it improves. And these are some of the things that I have discussed in my research paper.
Ma'am Shiraza, you also send your students on the field work, like for the community service projects?
Yes, we have.
So it's more or less the same thing as ma'am mentioned? Or
like one time we sent them to study the disaster management departments in different organizations, how they manage different crises in there, and they submitted reports, they conducted interviews, and they submitted reports, and then they presented the whole report. So and then they are given community service projects. They have to interact with the general public. Sometimes they go and they regulate traffic or educate people about general traffic rules, safety rules. So all this needs communication, and communicating with the general public, they have to be bilingual. They do use English where it's required. So all this helps in their development, personality development, as well as in their communication skills.
Sure. So ma'am Naila, your community projects that you have with your students, do you think that in that particular project, do they get a chance to improve their language as well, or to focus on their writing maybe?
Well, of course it improves their language skills as well, their confidence level, their interaction skill, interpersonal skills. And the projects that I normally assign to my students, they would go into corporations, study different kinds of projects those organizations are doing under the umbrella of corporate social responsibility. So they would study those projects as well, and then how those organizations are helping out the community. And then of course that's an exposure to my students as well, how organizations are engaged in assisting the community, giving back the community their share as well. So I think that's very informative for my students, and when they are having discussions with the members of the organization, of course they would speak in Urdu, they would speak in English as well. So that does develop their communication
and their
confidence and gives them more exposure, and they come back with a lot of information which they did not know before going to that particular organization.
So ma'am, when the kids, our students, they go into the field work, and when they happen to see these deprived people around, so do you think they come back with some kind of different spirit or a sense of sympathy? Do they have
give them a perspective, a different perspective, compassion? These are topics that we discuss in class often as a communication course. So these do come up, and they're able to express them in a better way when they've been to those localities and worked with handicapped children. So these projects do help them. They go
because normally we take the things for granted.
Yes.
Our students, they take it for granted that they have, as you said, handicapped children. So they have their whole body and the normal structure and everything.
They do go to schools that are for underprivileged children, and they for a day or two they work with them, teach them, play with them. They spend the entire school day with them. So it does give them a perspective.
So ma'am, आपको कैसा लगता है, क्या change आता है बच्चों में ऐसे एरिया से होकर जब वो आते हैं?
Once, sometimes I assign projects to my students where they have to generate maybe just a small amount of money, and then with that amount they would go and help out maybe an orphanage. They would give them whatever they need. It could be books, it could be sports equipment. Since I teach business students, they would we have students week, and in that they would have a small business, maybe generate some money on the from that stall they have put on. So they would, from that income, they would buy certain things for an orphanage, and when they go and distribute those things and spend some time with the orphans, and when they come back, they feel so happy, you know. They really love being with them, and I was surprised at the at their responses, how excited they felt, and they thought that this was one of the amazing experiences of being with those little kids and spending some time with them. They told me that we've never had this kind of experience before, and we never thought of going to an orphanage. So this project has given us an opportunity.
Exactly.
So
do you think that's the long lasting feeling or excitement that they have, or like just for kind of momentary feeling? How do you see it? Because you have been teaching since years.
They were very emotional when they came back, and they felt very happy. I feel that those feelings would stay with them. It was a great experience for my students. So when you've had a great experience and spiritually you are touched, then I think that experience does stay with you. It's not just something temporary, it won't vanish away.
Yeah, once I gave a project to my students, we were really, I'm really concerned about the situation of water in our part of the world. So I asked them to conduct an interview, a survey based on questionnaires in their locality, asking people how much water they use per day and how often they wash their cars and how do they water their lawns. And that was it was a eye-opener for most of them, that this is a commodity that we do not, we still consider to be free, and we can waste it as much as we want to and take long luxurious showers. So such when you give them such projects, so it does raise their awareness level. They come to know, and during that process they did tell the people, their respondents, the importance of water and the consequences if you don't have water.
Sure.
This part of our world is going to be the hardest hit when we.
Sure. So, ma'am, back to your conferences, in fact, that we discussed earlier as well. You both have been on different conferences, so please do share your experience of being there and what kind of learning you had over there.
Well, in one conference I read my paper that was in Multan, and it was a great experience for me, because the research that I've carried out, I share my research experience with other scholars, and I get to listen to the findings of other social scientists who were present in that conference. So you get to learn a lot about different dimensions and different research areas that people are interested in, and sometimes when you learn something from a conference, your research interest develops in that particular area. You may have never thought about that research area. So once you get some information about it, then you begin to think on those lines, and then you want to carry out your research in that particular area. So it's sort of motivating for the listeners and the participants as well, to listen to other researchers, other social scientists over there, because I'm being from social sciences, so I am more interested in the social scientists, their research areas. So I think it's very, very beneficial, and more often we should have conferences. In fact, in Bahria University we do have some conferences. I hope that we have more we give more opportunities to our students and faculty to attend these conferences.
To get more exposure.
They give a lot of exposure, and they help you or they help you or guide you to move towards a particular research area. So that's very helpful.
Guest lectures are very helpful. When I take my students to attend guest lectures, afterwards when we discuss the lecture, we discuss points that make a person a good speaker, and everybody is able to tell whether a speaker is good or not. If they are bored, the speaker is not good. So then we discuss the points. What were the points that made this particular person interesting? So it's exposure to people who are successful. I remember we had Sharmeen Obaid Chinoy, and the hall was full, and there were some speakers before her, and the students as usual were noisy. But once she started speaking, there was pin drop silence. And then we discussed how was she able to connect, what was it that she had in her speech that made everybody sit up and listen. So these, and she's a successful person, so they learnt how she got started. So these, this exposure, and to bring in good speakers, then we had this, we have motivational speakers come to the university. So they learn firsthand what makes a person a good speaker.
Sure.
So that's very helpful. We have such guest speakers. We often have them in the university.
Sure, ma'am, that's definitely beneficial for the student. What about the recent workshop that you attended at British Council, the digital English language learning?
Yes.
Please tell something about it.
Afifa, it was about how English, technology has changed our use of English too. There is a language for SMSs and their emails now. Official communication is more by using the internet. So it was about that, and how big corporations have used English as a tool of communication, and how they have made use of technology in teaching their employees to be good at English communication. So it was, Habib Bank has utilized this service, and they have benefited from it. And then there was one point that really was, I remember, is that now people don't shop. Shopping used to be an activity where people would interact with. Now it's done online.
Yeah.
So people who have businesses online, they need to communicate through the internet with their customers. So that requires a different kind of language, English language.
Exactly.
So how do you reach out to your customers? Through the internet. How do we as buyers or shoppers communicate with our
Sure.
the seller?
So, Ma'am Naila, do you think we are giving that exposure to formal and informal language separately to our students?
To some extent, yes, we are. To some extent, there is this exposure, because students these days, they are, I think, for them, technology, internet usage is very common with them. Is something they are very comfortable when using, and I think yes, we have in our university, we are we have many labs, or even internet access is open, Wi-Fi is there.
Yes.
So we are giving them ample opportunities to use internet for various purposes, either is the research activities or maybe for any other kind of information they require. Yes, I think the university is providing them a good platform for such kind of information.
And
exactly. So
digitalized English is different from, you know, the casual English that we use. They are taught to use language very responsibly on social sites like Facebook and other social
Twitter
sites and Twitter. How to use language with a lot of responsibility.
Snapchat
So
is also quite famous
Yes.
among the students.
Yes.
So I was just wondering, how can we give them a kind of social responsibility, again what you talked about, like how careful they should be while using these sites, you know, as far as the language is concerned, because there is a lot of difference definitely again.
Exactly.
So what do you suggest, like?
I think as teachers we do tell them about good language and bad language. I do discuss tweets with them, and I do discuss the way people discuss issues on these social sites. So we do discuss what's proper, what's improper, even if nobody is watching you and you have a fake ID, or your words speak about you, they tell who you are. So you have to use them very, very with a huge sense of responsibility.
Exactly. So, ma'am, what do you say about the syllabus? Like, you have been teaching for a long time, both of you. So this question is from you both, that how could we improve our syllabus? What kind of change we can bring in our outlines maybe? Or are we really on the right track?
FIFA, our syllabus course outlines are revised at the end of every semester. We have a meeting with our cluster head, and then we are instructed to revise and bring changes.
We are lucky enough in the university. In fact, I wanted to ask you with respect to the schools and colleges that so far we have been following the same old syllabus that was there in our time as well. So how could we improve that?
At university level, in Bahria University, I would say that we have the liberty to upgrade our course outlines, and at the end of every semester, I mean, we have a English faculty meeting where we are instructed to bring in changes, positive changes, and for the improvement of our course outlines, how they can be made better, if there are any suggestions or any topics that we would like to incorporate. Yes, we do that.
Yeah, we do talk about things that are
up to date,
that are workable and doable. And so we do incorporate them in our course outlines. Yes, our course outlines are updated.
Sure. But again, back to the schools or the colleges, how can we make them understand the importance of the latest methodologies or latest, ways of teaching language or the syllabus as well?
Yes, they need to be overhauled because we get students from those schools, and then we realize that it's not their fault. It's the system that has groomed them.
Yes.
If they had these facilities at primary level, I'm sure they would be much more fluent in English and other subjects as well.
Exactly.
So it's the at the school level that we need these audio visual aids and a revised syllabus, which they can relate to, because they come from their homes. They're exposed to the new technology and new programs and television, and when they go to school, they get to read the same books and the same novels that have been there for years now, and children can't relate to it. I've always been of this view that contemporary literature appeals to children. You can relate to it much more. So and
because this is something they can see around.
In that process, they can learn the language as well. The more they're exposed to the language, the more they'll quickly learn it.
True.
And of course, the government has to spend more on the
audiovisual
budget
aids.
has to be increased, so that there can be a change in policies as well, and change in course outlines. I mean,
and teacher training.
Teacher trainings and all that.
Vital.
All that needs to be there.
That's vital.
Yeah, so I think we can appreciate our university for that, that they do send us
yes,
on
they do give
courses.
us the liberty to bring positive changes in our course outlines, and they encourage us to do that.
Sure.
And that is something very, very positive.
And another very big positive is that nobody keeps their ideas to themselves. It's like a pool that we take from and put in.
Sure.
So my ideas can be taken by another colleague. I can take her ideas.
Exactly.
So it's all for the benefit of students.
Sure, ma'am. Lastly, I would like to know about your hobbies. If shortly you can tell me.
Yes, I just have. I think we don't have a lot of time for too many hobbies. Mine, I read. It's a luxury nowadays. I don't get time, and gardening.
Okay, that's great. That's wonderful. And ma'am,
yes, I like to carry out some research as well.
As a hobby? Don't tell me.
Yes, whenever I get the free time, free time, I do like to work on my research papers or case studies. Yes, because I don't have some special time for my hobbies. Coming back from the classroom, whenever I have free time, I work on my case studies or my research papers. And yes, maybe an hour to badminton as well. I love playing that as well. I mean, whenever I can get a chance. So yes, I do play that as well.
Thank you very much, ma'am Shiraza and ma'am Naila, for coming here.
Thank you very much.
To share with our viewers that how can we improve our language and overall teaching.
Thank you so much.
Viewers, so far we have this for today. Inshallah, next week see you again. Till that, goodbye and take care.